Hello and welcome to the Fuel Run Recover podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Natchuk, registered dietitian, running coach, marathon runner, and mom. This season, we're breaking down running's biggest trends, hot topics, and myths, and turning them into practical nutrition and training advice you can actually use every day. Let's get into it. Hey runners, before we get into today's episode, I want to ask you a quick question. Have you ever wondered if your nutrition is actually helping your running, or is it actually holding you back? If you want to find out, I've created a brand new free resource just for you. It's called the Runner's Fueling Audit. It's a super quick checklist that's going to help you spot the signs of underfueling, low energy availability, or where the gaps in your nutrition might be that are impacting your recovery and actually slowing you down. It only takes a few minutes to go through, and by the end, you're going to know whether or not your fueling is on the right track, or if you really need to start making some changes to the way you approach your eating so you can start to feel stronger on every run, reduce your injury risk, and actually get the results that you're training so hard for. You can grab your free copy right now by clicking on the link in the show notes. Again, this is called the Runner's Fueling Audit. It's a free downloadable resource, and it's going to give you so much clarity on how you can start feeling smarter and running stronger. All right, let's dive into today's episode. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Fuel Run Recover podcast, where I am very excited to be joined by a lovely guest today. Her name is Melanie Cote, and she is joining us here to talk about her experience, her journey getting into running her very first half marathon here at the end of 2025 when we're recording this episode. And I am personally feeling a little bit flustered at the moment because we had some technical difficulties getting on here, and but now we're here, we're ready to go, and I will let Melanie share a little bit more about herself, her journey getting into running, and what made her want to become a runner. So thank you so much for joining me today, Melanie, and take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for having me on your podcast. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you on running the New York Marathon. That
Oh, thanks.
was a great achievement. So very inspiring. So just to introduce myself, I'm a mother of two teenage daughters, so that are very busy. So my life is pretty busy being a Uber mom,
Yeah.
driving them everywhere. As I'm someone that was always active in my life. When I was young, I played a lot of sports, did competitive swimming, figure skating, regette, soccer.
Okay, yeah.
So, being active was always part of my life. But when I became an adult, life happened. I had kids and I stopped being active. So, unfortunately, started to gain weight and, didn't kind of feel comfortable with my body, with myself. So now my kids are getting older and I'm going to be 50 soon in a few months. So
Wonderful.
for me, it's always been a dream of mine to run, and I remember seeing people run like in the summer, thinking, oh my God, these people are so inspiring, seeing runners in the winter. For me, being the runners were sort of a symbol of somebody that was healthy, that was disciplined, that ate well. It was like kind of all these symbols, and I always secretly wanted to be these people. And in 2022, at my workplace, we organized a race, a 5K race, and all my colleagues were like, "Mel, are you going to run with us?" And I couldn't. I had never run that distance before. I wasn't in shape, and that really kind of made me feel like crap. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And I remember going to that race and encouraging all my colleagues, and I told myself, you know what? Next year I'm going to run that race, and I'm going to be there.
I love
And
it.
then after that, it didn't take a year that I registered for a 5K race, and I joined a, Couch to 5K program that I started. I started doing interval running, like 30 seconds to 1 minute run intervals, and felt like I was gonna die, during those run intervals. And finally, I was able to achieve my first 5K, and then I kind of got the interest, thinking, hey, I can run 5K. Well, I can run 10K.
Yeah.
And I was lucky because my husband had also been running himself. He was, soccer player, very he was an athlete, and he decided to join me on my venture, and we started running together. But I was always feeling that because I was slow, I was, overweight, it was just not the typical runner, and always kind of felt inadequate, so but I pursued, and I mean, I didn't beat any records. I didn't run a 10K in 2 months. It took me 2 years, but I reached that goal. So that was really exciting for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that part of your story where you said like it didn't take you just 2 months to start to check off some goals from your list. And I want to just make sure that the people that are listening to your story really internalize that message, because you're not the first person who's been on this podcast that has been very successful with achieving your running goals one step at a time, one distance at a time. But when you give yourself time to train, time to reach that next level, time to enjoy the process versus rush, rush, rush to get to the end as fast as you possibly can. Like, I think that you probably enjoy running and enjoy the process of training a lot more, and were able to, not get injured. And we can talk about that, things that came up during your training cycle. And just like allow yourself that space to enjoy the journey and enjoy the process versus trying to check off the boxes as quickly as you can.
Right. And it's hard because you often compare yourself to others
Of
in this
course.
space,
Yeah.
and you see all these people saying, "Oh, well, I just started running in 4 months. I'm running a half marathon,"
Yes. Or a full
and
marathon.
or a full marathon.
And us coaches are
But
like, no.
but it's true, I didn't get injured, and I took my time, and I mean, it was my time. It wasn't, everybody has their um, the time that it take to reach their goals, and
Yep.
mm,
Yeah. And I had a really similar experience too, like just getting back into running postpartum. I had my twins at the end of 2023. So I'm not in the teenage years yet, but still very busy, right? I think every age
mhm,
is busy. Maybe there's a
for
sweet
sure.
spot at like age 9. I don't know. Maybe age 9 they will. But yeah, where you see like people who they're just getting back into running, and they're like, oh, okay, so I'm like 3 months postpartum and I just signed up for my first race, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like at 3 months postpartum, I don't even think my physio hadn't even cleared me to run yet. And it's hard to always be comparing yourself to other people's journeys, but you're so right that when you can really focus on yourself getting to where you want to go, enjoying the process, it makes such a difference to not rush through it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then, one of the ways that you and I had actually connected was through Instagram. And I don't remember exactly how it all kind of came to pass, but I know that we ended up having a conversation about my program for runners that offers nutrition support and educational modules and things like that. And you had followed me from your account, the Curvy Runner. And so, what made you, in addition to just like getting out there and doing it and signing up for the races and going along this training journey, what made you also inspired to share your journey and make that Instagram account?
Well, there's two things. The first reason was just to be accountable for myself,
Okay. Yep.
totally selfish reason. Just, I had started some, a few years back, started running, and I never continued, never persevered.
Okay.
Life happened. I had kids, I got divorced, work, and I wanted to become accountable, and I figured that if I show up out there for people that
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
going to give me the motivation to continue. And it's not probably the best reason, but that in true honesty, that's how I started. And then I was proud of myself, hey, I can do this, I can continue.
Yeah.
And the other reason was just because, yeah, as I was mentioning, there's a lot of people that show up on this space and kind of give the false impression that you can run a certain distance in a short period of time, or you have to, just have that expectation of performance. And that if you don't look a certain way, you're not really a runner. If you don't run a half marathon, you're not really a runner. So it
Yeah,
was just to show people and inspire them that you don't need to run any distance at all. If you're out there, you're moving,
yeah,
you're a runner, and be proud of yourself. So it was just to kind of show people that, hey, I'm just an ordinary girl and I can do this. So anybody can do this.
yeah. I love that so much. And there's so much like, I've talked about this in the podcast before, so I apologize for always beating the dead horse about this one. But the shift in social media that I have seen since I've been active on social media as a coach and as a business owner, in that the monetization of these platforms has made having like the more hot takes you have, whether or not they're scientifically valid or good opinions or whatever, like just saying things just for the views and saying these really controversial things, like just for the views, gets a lot of attention. And it's often
Hmm.
attention on the wrong things that makes people feel very negatively. Like one that just I've seen circulating the past couple of days is the guy who said that if you can't run a 7 minute mile, then you're not a real runner. And I don't, I think that's like maybe like a 4 minute kilometer or something like that. I don't know. Don't,
Yeah.
that's not a conversion that I'm very good at. But, like that is very fast. Like I'm sorry, like
Hmm.
that's very fast. And I know that might not be very fast to some people, right? There's going to be that upper 10% that like maybe a 7 minute mile is their easy pace, but that's not a lot of people. Just being able to complete 1 mile, even run at that pace period. But this is the stuff that's so like out there on social media. These are the images, these are the opinions that we see so often. So to have accounts of, like you said, like sort of just regular people that are just running and are enjoying the process and getting out there and sharing their journey, I think is really refreshing and really, really needed in the running space and fitness space specifically.
Hmm. And you don't need to look a certain way, like
Yeah.
some people, they go out running and they put the full makeup on and they get their
Yeah.
hair done, and that's fine. And I
A little
respect that,
matching
but
outfit.
that's not my reality. When I run, I sweat like I'm drenched.
Yeah.
But and that's okay. And people don't need to feel like they need to put a full makeup on and go to the hair salon before they go out to exercise. So
Yes.
it's just kind of normalizing sweating.
Yeah. Okay. No. There. That's like that's the caption. That's the name of this episode right there. Like normalize sweating. No, I couldn't agree with you more. So you started with the 5K and then eventually moved up to wanting to tackle a 10K. And what
Mhm.
made you decide that you wanted to then train and take on a half marathon distance? And what made you choose the Run Disney race that you ended up signing up for? So I want to hear all about that.
Yes. Well, first, the reason why I wanted to do a half marathon was just because I had reached my goal of the 10K, and it was hard for me.
Mhm.
It was difficult. It took again a lot of time, but I wanted to push myself even more and to show myself and my daughters also that if you work hard and you persevere, you can reach an objective.
Mhm.
But I didn't choose to run a marathon right away. I chose, the kind of the second
Yeah.
objective, which is the half marathon, because I knew that I could do it. I
Mhm.
knew that, I wanted to commit myself to showing up for all my trainings, and I knew it was attainable, but I knew that it was something that I had to work for. It wasn't something that was going to be easy.
Yeah.
And I kind of made that commitment to myself, I'm going to do this for the next few months. I'm going to show up. I'm going to put in my schedule, put some me time,
Yeah.
and go for my runs and do it. And my husband had also run a half marathon a few years back, and I asked him, like, do you want to do this with me? Because it's yes, it's some me time, but it's nice to do it with somebody else to
Yeah.
sort of motivate each other. And the only thing I told him is that we're going to run at my pace. Not because he always, so often, we'd go for runs and he's like, yeah, yeah, I'll follow you. And then he's like way in front of me. And
Yeah.
so he agreed and he respected that. And that was also motivating for me because the mornings where you don't feel like going out or doing your training, if the other person says, okay, let's go, then it helped. kick me in the butt a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I chose Disney, I mean, I love Disney. I don't
Who
talk about that a
doesn't?
lot,
Like,
but
come on, right?
you it's a magical place. I visited with my daughters a few times, and it's just some place where the runs make it so magical. It's the environment. You're running in the parks, running in the Star Wars village, and you see all the characters and the motivation and people wearing costumes. And yeah, so it's just, I told myself, if I'm going to run a half marathon, I'm going to train for it and give it all I have. Might as well do it in a magical place,
Yes.
and might as well run in a dress, in a costume.
There you go. There you go.
So
I love that. Yeah, if you're gonna do it,
yeah,
make it good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it was everything that I wanted it to be, except for the hot weather. It was very humid for October in Florida.
Yeah.
The week after, the temperatures went down a little bit, so I had to actually update my costume because I hadn't thought that it was going to be so hot. So I was dressed up as Sully from Monsters Inc.
Okay.
And Sully's very furry.
Yeah.
And I had a skirt that was full of fur and with a tail. And I thought, you know what, there's no way that I'll be able to run 21 kilometers with fur when
Yeah.
it's like 31 degrees. So
Yeah.
I went to the expo the day before, and I bought a little skirt, that was in the right colors, but it wasn't the full Sully furry experience.
You can save that one for I know there's a big one in January that a lot of people do, the marathon weekend. So you can save that for that, run that one in January.
Yeah, for another run,
Yeah,
but that's
exactly.
okay. But it really was like the Run Disney, just the attentions that you get. It's just amazing. It's just such
Mhm.
a wonderful setting to run, and
Yeah.
and there's no competition. People are there. People stop to take pictures with
Yeah.
some characters,
Yeah.
and people go on rides as well. The rides are open at after a certain time,
Are they really?
and yeah,
Oh, I didn't even know that.
yeah.
Are there spectators too? Like, can you go just
Yes.
watch? Yeah.
There are areas where there's spectators. What was really great is at Epcot, when you run around the world villages, there's employees of each of these stations that are dressed up in their country's uniform, and they encourage you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the race, there's always these marching bands that encourage you, and people gather. So it's
Yeah.
really great.
Yeah. Oh,
Mm.
that's so fun. That's so fun. So I want to just backtrack a little bit and talk
Okay.
about your training cycle and,
Yes.
kind of tell us a little bit more about how things kind of went with the training cycle itself. Like, what were you most proud of with getting through that first half marathon training cycle? Because there's nothing like doing something new for the very first time.
Hmm. Well, I did a 22-week training program to run for my half marathon. I started in January with a 5K, then after that a 10K program. And what I was mostly proud and surprised is that I committed to this training program. And out of the 22 weeks, there's only one day that I didn't show up for a run.
Okay.
And that was because, life got really too busy. It wasn't possible. But 22 weeks of showing up, something I've never done in my life.
That's amazing.
And I was motivated, and it wasn't always easy. There were mornings that waking up sometimes 4:30 in the morning to go for a run,
Yep.
and sometimes it's cold, sometimes
Yep.
it's raining, sometimes it's hot.
Yeah.
And so it was just, I made it fit in my schedule. And if I couldn't go in the morning, I'd go at night. And after a day's work, it's tough. Like, I'm a morning runner, so running at night, but I did it. I took the time. And um when we had our longest run, I remember that weekend my husband and I had gone away with my parents to a cottage, but we took Monday off from work, and we made sure that we had our long run in, just to make sure that it was planned.
Yep.
Mm.
Absolutely. I felt similarly about when I got through my training cycle for New York as well. It was like, what's your biggest accomplishment? finishing that training cycle. Like, like
Exactly.
the race was great. Like, don't get me wrong. The race was good, but like just yeah, just finishing it. Like getting up, getting out there, hot, cold, these long runs that take hours and hours and hours, time away from your family, the scheduling around your kids and their activities and fitting it in, getting up crazy early in the morning to fit in that run before work. Like, whew, like happy to be in the off season.
Yes, and I mean you have young kids too, so it's not easy, and
Yeah.
scheduling it,
Yeah.
it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. So, what mistakes did you make? Because while your dedication and your consistency and all of that sounds like it was super locked in, which is fantastic, there probably were some bumps in the road.
Oh, there were a few, quite a few. One of the first mistake that I've done is as my program, as my runs were getting longer, I spent less time stretching at the end of my runs. So
Sure.
at first, I was really like stretching, but then when you're going out to run an hour and a half, you have to get to work, you have to make your lunch. Like, the stretching was kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, we're
Thumbs
done.
up,
And stretched a few minutes before and then that's it, go on with my day. So I think that at one point I wasn't injured, but I was sore, on my thighs and my hips, not during the day, but when I was sleeping. And I went to see some physio and osteo, and, they were saying, well, are you stretching? Not really. So that's one of the things that I should have done better. And the other thing was, during my plans, whenever I had easy runs, I didn't run easy. I always ran the same pace. So, conversational pace is something that's tough for me. But I didn't do it completely. So, I always kind of ran at my zone 4 or zone 5.
Yeah.
So
And the training plan that you were following, was it a training plan that also had speed work in it as well, or were you just focusing on building volume for the half marathon?
yes, there were tempo runs once a week,
Yeah.
so running a little bit faster, and but like in my cool down, I always ran pretty much the same pace as
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
the rest.
Did
So
you find that that affected your speed work? Like, did it make it harder to get to that next level for the tempo efforts when you weren't keeping it easy on your easy days? Or, because it was your first training cycle, you know, how did you find there was an impact on that with your speed work and with some of the quality workouts that were involved or, things that you might do?
Mhm. Well, I think it definitely impacted the my pace. I was struggling to go faster,
Mhm.
and honestly, it impacted the fact that I couldn't run as long as I should have.
Okay.
Um, in terms of my endurance, I think
Mhm.
that completely affected it. Especially sometimes I started running and I knew that I was running too fast, and then after a certain amount of time, where normally I'm able to pursue, it's like that had a big impact.
Yeah, yeah. No, 100%. And I think that that's something that, you might not realize it when you first start running. And this is, I mean, like the number one most common mistake that new runners make is that they are going out too fast. And even some very experienced runners still run too fast a lot of the time. And that's what you're describing is exactly the impact is then if you're already starting out too fast, it's hard to get to that next gear of speed and also hard to find the endurance that you need at that moderate intensity. You have to scale back to that zone 2 conversational effort, build the endurance and the volume, and then it's easier to layer on the speed. And that's
Yeah.
all the aerobic
And
base building that we talk about incessantly in the run coaching space.
yes, and it's funny. I have a Garmin watch now, and it's telling me like I'm in 32 seconds in zone 2. So it's
32
definitely
seconds. Like, well, why did you even tell me that?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
Mm.
Yeah, my Garmin is always on me. Is always on me about needing more anaerobic work. So when off season here, I'll be doing a lot more sprints apparently. But um, and what about the process of getting ready for the half marathon surprised you the most? Was there anything that you look back and you're like, oh wow, I wasn't really expecting that?
In terms of the race or in terms of the half marathon
The
in
training
general?
cycle. Yeah, the
The
training
training
cycle.
cycle?
Yeah.
Um, I thought that I really had to run the whole distance and
Mhm.
even more to be able to run a half marathon. When I was doing my 10K program, it asked me to run a 12K and a 13K. And when I didn't run the 21, I thought, well, how am I going to get to the 21 if I've never done it before? So that was kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Mm.
At what point, so you and I started working together. You joined my
Mhm.
online program, the Fuel Train Recover Club. I think it was in August, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe it was
Yes.
September. August. Okay.
Mm.
So at what point did you realize that you needed some help? So what were you kind of struggling with, or what questions did you have that you started to look for some solutions when it came to that build up towards your first half marathon? So tell us a little bit more about what was going on there behind the scenes.
Okay. Well, I guess when I started to do the longer runs, I was finding that I was really struggling. I didn't have the energy to pursue. I wasn't feeling like I felt like my legs were okay, my cardio was okay, but I just didn't have the energy.
Hmm.
So I started to use some gels, but I didn't really know how to use them properly to
Okay.
to help me continue.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I had a lot of misconceptions of, oh, well, you just have spaghetti the night before and you're going to be okay. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of, I realized that, my fueling had an impact on my endurance. And I wanted to reach kind of that second level because I felt like I was a little bit at a standstill
Okay.
and I didn't have the energy. I was following the plan, but I'm like, thinking I should be getting better and I'm not, or I'm struggling too much. So I started to look at other things that could impact, like the fueling and.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
and what you said there is so important. Like the way that you fuel yourself when you're running 5Ks or even 10Ks is very different than when you start to get to those longer distances like half marathons or full marathons. Like the things that you do with your eating will get you through
Mhm.
a 5K or a 10K. Those same things with your day to day eating habits are not going to get you through a half marathon or a full marathon. And, the fueling is one thing, the hydration is another. And we can talk about this too. And I want to hear about your race day strategies for fueling and hydration, everything what you did on race day. But it's like you can get through running for an hour and a half, and it'll be okay. But once you start getting beyond that, it really starts to fall apart if you aren't thinking about your fueling and hydration as part of that training process.
And for sure, and when you follow these online apps, programs to learn how to run, I mean, they're great and they're really accessible, but they don't give you all that other information.
Yeah.
So I had run a 5K and a 10K without really knowing what a gel was. And, I
Yeah.
knew that I drank a little bit of water, but for the 5K, I never hydrated at all during the runs
Yeah.
and a little bit before, a little bit after, but I didn't even bring water bottles with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So things are different for the 21K, and I really
Mhm.
felt it like once I started running more than 12K,
Yep.
that's when I found that my body was just not following.
Yeah. There's that
So
tipping point. Yeah. And I
yeah.
find, for a lot of people, it's going to be like somewhere around, 8 plus miles, maybe 10, like somewhere around there. It's just, I am consistently falling off with my pace, or I'm consistently falling off with my energy. I cannot seem to break through that barrier of whatever distance. What's going on? And 9 times out of 10, it's going to be your fueling or your hydration that's lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I learned so many things and have done things differently, and it really helped.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's wonderful. As you were getting ready for this half marathon, what was the longest long run that you ended up doing?
We did a 20-kilometer long run. That was about a month before my race.
Mhm.
It was very difficult. The 20 kilometers. It was a
Yeah.
day that it was hot, it was humid,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we were in fall, so we weren't really expecting this hot weather. And I ended up, walking between kilometer 17 and 19. So I was a little disappointed because
Mhm.
I figured I wanted to do the whole
Mhm.
distance.
Mhm.
But I finished the 20K, so I was still proud of myself.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That's great.
And then after that, we started running. I started running shorter distances. So,
Yeah.
um, you know,
Yeah. And that's something that I always want people to take with a bit of a grain of salt is like those last couple of big long runs. You've got all that mileage from the week built up, all that fatigue, not a lot of recovery as the volume builds. So sometimes that last long run can be a little bit of a disappointment just because like you're so tired by that point. But I like to always think, it won't be this hard on race day, right? Because race day, you'll be tapered, you'll be rested, you'll be carb loaded, like all the things. So like I won't have all this fatigue, I won't have all of this need for recovery. It will not be this bad on race day.
yeah,
Hopefully that comes true, right? Hopefully that ends up being the case. Um,
absolutely.
Yeah. So throughout the training process, you mentioned that you started doing some things differently with your fueling and got a little bit more knowledge, in the program about using intra-run fuel and all those kinds of things. So what were some of the specific things that you started doing differently as you were preparing for your half marathon when it came to your fueling strategies?
Well, the first thing is carbs. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a person, I've been trying to lose weight for such a long time. So carbs was always something that I saw as negative. Every
Hmm.
diet that I tried, it
Yeah.
was, eat less carbs, and eat
Yeah.
less
Yeah. Yeah.
carbs. So I even did keto for a few years.
Hmm.
So carbs for me was kind of something that's bad for me.
Yeah.
So when I saw that I had to eat some, and not just the day before race day, that's
Yeah.
something that really had to change my mindset a little bit.
Yeah.
And I found that there was a good impact.
Yeah.
I had that energy that I was lacking,
Mhm.
and so I started to make sure that I added some and to my meals and stop being afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah. Was that a
Yeah.
hard adjustment for you? Or did you see the payoff in terms of your performance and your energy levels so quickly that it just was just kind of a no-brainer at that point? Or did it take some time for you to be like, okay, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing before you really started to get more comfortable with it?
It was very psychological,
Okay.
so psychological to have kind of that guilt feeling. You're like, no, I don't need to feel guilty because I had a piece of a potato. I don't feel guilty because we had some pasta, and it
Mhm.
wasn't the konjac pasta that tastes nothing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, all those things, have regular whole wheat bread. And so it was very psychological. And yes, I also saw the benefits. So it encouraged me to continue and
Mhm.
kind of confirm that I was doing the right thing as well.
Yeah.
And my family and my kids were so happy. Like, she's eating like us again, and
Yeah.
that really, other than the benefits, just having, my kids and my husband be kind of feel relieved
Yeah.
that I wasn't restricting myself so much anymore. And I mean, I didn't gain weight.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it really had a positive effect.
Yeah, that's so wonderful to hear. Like I'm always so grateful when people share their stories around that of like, you know, taking the plunge on this, trusting in your dietitian to start incorporating more carbs into your diet, right? It's a terrifying thing when you've been told for decades that that's the one
Mhm.
thing you can't be eating is carbs. And then all of a sudden you have this one person here that's like, "Oh wait, maybe you should be eating carbs." Like one voice after decades of the opposite. It's a very hard thing to shift. And I mean, you're putting a tremendous amount of trust in your dietitian and me to do that, right? I mean, from the runner's perspective, like you're risking health, you're risking performance, you're risking weight regain that you've worked so hard to lose and over the years. That's a massive step to do that. And so when people can take that step, incorporate it successfully in a way that supports their running, but also helps get them closer to their body composition goals, like that's just such a beautiful thing to kind of see it come full circle and really work. Because I mean, we know that it works in the sport nutrition space. Like we know what we're saying is legit, but you need to sometimes experience it and see other people saying, yeah, no, this is actually a real thing. This actually made a huge difference for me.
And has honestly put my shift on, it's put my mindset on my performance and running other than on losing weight, you know. I,
Yes.
I I'm not thinking about that as much,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's so relieving. And I feel like I'm healthy. I feel that I'm in shape, I'm able to run. I have my cardio is good, and
Yeah.
that's such a great feeling. And I thought that that feeling of being healthy was going to be only if I lost the weight. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of an unbelievable feeling that I've
Yeah.
been having.
That's amazing. That's really, really wonderful. And, looking at your children too and how they feel, like how they feel witnessing this transformation in you. Like
Mhm.
we all know, I mean, I'm not fortunate enough to be a mother of daughters, but you know, we know how this stuff plays out in those family relationships and in those parent-child relationships, and we want better for our kids. We want them to not struggle with food and weight and body image the way that we did growing up, in our generation. And so when they
Mhm.
see like, oh wow, like mom is eating all the things and look how great she's doing, she's out there crushing these half marathons, like that is far better than the mom who's always on a diet.
Yeah, because as much as we say, "Oh, don't do what I'm doing," well, if you're doing it, your children are going to copy you.
Yeah.
So now I'm actually doing what I'm saying that I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a client, he shared his story a couple of years ago on the podcast, where his big breakthrough moment with him, that is nutrition, like he needed some help with his eating and his nutrition, was when one of his kids, got a bit older and noticed that he wasn't eating the same meals as the rest of them and pointed it out, like, hey, dad, like, how come you never eat what the rest of us eat? And he said for him, like, that was a really pivotal moment in like not want like not what am I showing my kids, what am I teaching my kids about health and nutrition and all of that. So it's, everyone's got that kind of shift, and it's so great when we can find it and then, start to do things a little bit differently.
For sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so fast forward to race day. We've done the longest long run. We've started to try some new things. Race day is here. Did you carb load for this half marathon? And kind of what was your strategy as a new half marathoner with carb loading?
Well, it was a really big challenge because I was at Disney. So I was
Yeah.
we got to Disney on the Wednesday night and the race was the Sunday. So I had planned my restaurants, appropriately. And another mistake that I did is the night before the run, we had planned on we went to Animal Kingdom and we left a little bit early because I didn't want to stay up too late.
Mhm.
And I had reserved a restaurant in Disney Springs, thinking it was an Italian restaurant, wanted to eat some pasta.
Yeah.
But when in the morning I was checking my reservations, I noticed, oh my God, it's not an Italian restaurant, it's a Mexican restaurant. And
Okay.
I had completely misunderstood that.
Yeah.
So we changed the restaurant kind of last minute, and my meal was not what I was expecting.
Okay.
I had ordered a whole grain meal with chicken and vegetables, but it was just so spicy. I didn't even eat half of it. So
Yeah.
I didn't carb load as much as I wanted to.
Yep.
And obviously, being in the parks, the lunches at Disney, it's not the best.
Yeah.
I tried to make some healthy choices, but one of the things that I did do though is I hydrated a lot,
Mhm.
and I brought over some electrolytes so that I had them a few days before, not just the morning of the race. And also being at Disney, we had ordered some groceries delivered to our room. So I
Yeah.
made sure that I had bananas, I had fruit, I had yogurt, I had some protein bars, protein shakes. So I
Mhm.
had all those available to me, so that I wasn't eating French fries every day
All the-
before.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge,
Yeah,
definitely.
no, and I mean, you were there for quite a few days before the race, so
Hmm.
that means like your whole carb load is going to be taking place while you're at Disney. I mean, you're on your feet a ton more than you should be, and I had a very similar experience with New York. to be totally honest with you. But we didn't get there quite as early. So I did start my carb load at home because I was like, I'm going to do a
Okay.
really, really good job before I leave so that I know that if it's not perfect, when I get there, I'm going to just do the best I can. Because it's very hard when you're traveling, eating in restaurants, on the go, and you don't want to just sit in your hotel and carb load. Like you want to get the most
Exactly.
out of the experience of being in this new place. And so you just sometimes have to give and take a little bit.
Yeah,
Then, and two, to your point about the dinner the night before not being ideal, this is why we don't just carb load for one meal. Like you had said at the beginning. So,
exactly.
you kind of thought like, oh, pasta the night before is that's all there is to it, right? But when we do a good job of carb loading for a couple of days before our race, the beauty of it is that if that last final meal isn't perfect, no problem, right? Because you already got in, like, you've already done 80% of the work. So if that last 20% isn't completely dialed in, we don't have to stress about it. It's okay. We can just go to bed. And so on race day, what time did you have to wake up in the morning? Because notoriously Disney races are like absolutely nuts for what time you have to be
Yeah,
there.
it was nuts, but I
Yeah.
knew what I was getting myself into, and thank
Yeah.
God I'm an early morning runner because we woke up at 2:30 in the morning.
What time did you go to bed?
Yeah, so it was a short night. Garmin was not happy with my sleep pattern on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
morning. So yeah, we woke up at 2:30, took the bus from I was staying on the Disney properties, so there's buses from the resorts to the start of the race. We were starting at Epcot. So we left at 3:15, got to the resort around to the race around 3:45, and you have to be there for 4 in the morning to get into your coral, and you have to walk there's quite a big
Mhm.
distance to walk to get to the starting line. And yeah, and it was very hot, so we thought we had brought some like jackets and covers, but it was so hot that morning that we were fine. It was great. The ambiance is, there was animation, there was some characters that were there so you can take pictures, a lot of photo ops, and they were offering some snacks so people can carb load before the race. And yeah, we left around 5:15 our coral.
Okay, okay. And what did you have the morning of? Like, what was like your pre-race breakfast? And did you eat at the hotel and then again when you got down to the start line area, or what did you kind of do for your fueling for the day of?
Well, when I got up, I wasn't really hungry, like 2:30
Mhm.
in the morning. I don't usually have breakfast at that time, but I
Yeah.
forced myself.
Wait, what?
Um, I don't usually wake up at
Yeah.
2:30. I don't know about you, but
No, not if I can help
um,
it. Not that my kids sleep through the night. Not if I can help
unless
it.
you're going to the airport.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. But as I mentioned, we had ordered some groceries. So I had a banana and I had half of a bagel before I left.
Yeah.
And then I had brought some snacks because we got there quite a little bit early.
Mhm.
So maybe an hour before we left, I really like the baby food, the banana puree.
Okay.
So I had that,
Yeah.
and also a Stinger waffle to get that kind of energy half an hour before we left. So I ate a little bit consistently, so I had
Mhm.
enough energy before the starting.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that, when you're running these big races, like, there's so many similarities between our stories here. Your Disney race and me running New York, like having to get up. I didn't have to get up early because we were in a much later wave, but, getting up long time to have to get down to the start line. Like it takes a long time, lots of downtime between getting there and actually go. Like there, a lot of the logistics of these big, massive races
Hmm.
are very different than when you're running the smaller local events that you like roll out of bed, eat a bagel in the car, show up, start line 5 minutes before the gun goes off, kind of thing. Which
Yeah,
I think is beautiful.
exactly.
I love the small local races, but um, you know, people what I want people to be thinking about when they're doing things like these Disney events or World Major or anything on this scale is you're probably going to have to eat a couple of times if there's going to be, in your case, what was that like three hours between actually waking up and running. I mean, on your
Hmm.
average weekend, that's like waking up at 8 a.m. and running at 11. So like, having to eat either a bigger meal or a couple of smaller meals and to be fueled up before you've even started the race, you might have already been at 10,000 steps for the day.
Exactly. By the time you walk just from the drop off of the bus to the start of the line, and you've been
Yeah,
on your feet for 2 hours. So
exactly.
that's
Exactly.
another struggle. Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have a like pacing plan in mind for this race, or what was kind of your approach to actually doing the half marathon? Like, did you have a goal finish time? Did you have a pacing plan? Did you just want to get out there and enjoy yourself and do the damn thing? What was what was the
Well,
agenda?
my first goal was just to finish,
Yeah.
and enjoy it because we do all this training, but if you don't enjoy the race, then what's the point, right? So I did have a plan to start slow, and when one of the things that I didn't expect was there's a lot of walkers at the Run Disney, so you're kind of going around people. So it was
Yeah.
hard to keep that steady pace. So I ran a little bit faster in the beginning than I wanted to. And
Hmm.
I really tried to slow down, but, and then I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I had to pee like
Yeah.
so bad, and trying to find a bathroom that they didn't have a lineup, that was a challenge. I didn't want to stop for like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I was lucky. I found when we were in Epcot, there was a lady that was telling runners the bathroom's on this side. So
Yeah.
I stopped. It wasn't long.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I remember it, I was maybe at 3 or 4 miles back then, and I was completely sweaty. I was hot. I was struggling. So it was really a lot more humid than I thought. So my goal, I just ended up to be able to finish. So
Yeah.
go slower. I took some walk breaks
Mhm.
about after halfway, and I was following some pacers that were doing walk run intervals,
Oh,
and
great.
that helped me continue. I didn't have to think, how long do I have to walk? I was just
Yeah.
following them, and it helped me finish.
Yeah, yeah. And then what did you do for your intra-race fueling plan for the day? What did you do for gels, for fluids? What was all that looking like?
Well, I did have some electrolytes the morning when I got up, so I made sure that I had my water bottle. And during the race, I run with a vest with just water bottles,
Yeah.
and there was actually a lot of water stations with
Mhm.
some electrolytes. So I was surprised that I think every mile there was one, and because it was hot, they had added more. So I ended up drinking a lot more throughout my race than I usually do for my practice. Normally, I just have my vest with my two water bottles, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So I made sure that every water station I had some electrolytes. And then at the end, I mean, it was kind of so sweet. At the end, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need water.
Yeah. You know what they were
But
serving? Like, what did they actually have on the course? Like, what product were they using?
I think that it was a Powerade.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're getting some electrolytes and some fuel with each of those too.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I did have my gels. I usually have my gels every 5 kilometers,
Mhm.
so I had those as well, and
Yeah.
and those
And you
worked
were
well.
able to stick to your fueling plan.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I did. They gave us some gummies, but it was like, you know what? I'm not used to having those gummies, so I
Yeah.
I kept them. I brought them home, and then my dog ate them. So
Oh
I
no.
left, yeah, I left them on my kitchen counter, and when we weren't looking, she jumped and she ate all of them. So
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Hopefully they weren't caffeinated.
yeah, she was really energized that day.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah. So anything else about the race? Any other, like, for people who are listening to this that maybe want to do a Run Disney event, like anything, any other like tips, surprises, like logistics, things that you would want, like, because I personally never done a Run Disney race. So, I mean, I only know secondhand
Mhm.
information from, people like yourself who have done them. Anything else that people should know about like tackling a Run
Well,
Disney event?
Yeah, the Run Disney, I think one of the hardest part is to get into the race, to register. The
Right.
registration process is
Yeah.
quite challenging. So they do the registration at least 6 months ahead of time. It's quite early.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If you want to do Run in Disney, make sure that you go check out the registration dates, the race dates. Most of the 2026 dates are already out, and
Mhm.
I think there's one race left for registration in February. So that's the first thing, and the other thing is just to have fun. I mean, get into the costumes and to the atmospheres and the
Yeah.
themes, and it's just so much fun. And don't take it too seriously. I mean, yes, there's a lot of walkers, so you're not going to do your PB, and but you're just there to have a good time. So if
Yeah.
that's what you're looking for, I mean, Disney is the place to go.
Yeah. And that's too because like, there are certain races, that if you want to go for a PB, like you're going to put your head down and you're going to race it, right? Like you're
Hmm.
going to basically work as hard as you can for as long as you can for that full duration. Again, 5K, 10K or longer, like whatever it might be, right? But you really have to focus and just put your head down and run for those types of, you know, goals. But you miss it, right? Like if you're gonna miss the fun, you're gonna miss the atmosphere, you're gonna miss the purpose of going to that event and not be able to stop for a character picture, not be able to stop and take in the scenery and the sights. And I feel the same about, other big events like the world majors too, where, you're going to this new city, you're sightseeing. There's a time and a place for just enjoying the journey and enjoying the experience versus it always being a focus on getting it done as fast as possible.
Exactly. And I mean, there's just, you've worked so hard for it, you've trained so hard, so might as well make it last the longest time
Get your
possible.
money's
And
worth.
yeah, exactly. And have so much fun. And I mean, running through big cities, there's how many times, how many opportunities are you going to have to do that? And,
Totally.
having running in Toy Story Land or having
Yeah.
Chewbacca encourage you. Like, that was
Mhm.
quite special. Mm.
Yeah, very cool. And so what's next for you? Do you have anything coming up on the calendar now, or are we just
Yeah.
enjoying the off season? What's going on on your running plans?
Well, honestly, I did have a plan for post half marathon that was just to kind of maintain my pace, and it's winter here in Montreal, so it's hard to do the longer distances outside.
Yeah.
But I saw a half marathon that was happening locally, so it's really near my house. It's in 2 weeks. So I've decided that I was going to run that half marathon.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a no fluff race, just I think there's 750 runners in total. It's in a nature park in the forest.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
we went to sort of check out the route. And this time my husband's not running with me. So I'm going to be on my own. And after my first half marathon, as much as I'm really proud of having finished it, I walked a little bit more than I wanted to, and it was always my goal to run 21 Ks without stopping, and I
Mhm.
didn't reach that. And so I'm going to be trying to do that in 2 weeks. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Fantastic. And so for runners who have been maybe, following along on your journey on social media before hearing about you on the podcast, or the opposite, maybe they're hearing about you on the podcast for the first time, now they're going to go over and follow you on social media. What advice do you have for runners who are like maybe just getting started on their running journey? They are where you were. Let me get that right. They are where you were back in 2022. And what advice do you have for those people who are just getting started and, are thinking about wanting to sign up for that first race, that first big race, but maybe are feeling a little bit intimidated or don't know where to start or, just scary doing new things?
Yeah. Well, my first advice is just to pick an attainable goal. If you've never run before, don't sign up for a marathon,
Yeah.
sign up for a 5K or even a 2K if that's what
Yeah.
you feel that you're going to be able to do. Because once you reach that goal, you accomplish it, you feel so proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And if you choose a goal that's too hard to attain, you're just going to get discouraged. And I mean, it's happened to me like over and over again where I just gave up. So, when you have a small attainable goal, you reach it, you're proud of yourself, then you can move on to someone.
Mhm.
So give yourself a chance to be a beginner.
Yeah. Oh, I
you're
love
not,
that.
and it's something that I wish I told myself that,
Yeah.
I wish I respected that and didn't feel all those, have those negative thoughts. But I think that's really important. And down the line, it's going to benefit you. And never be embarrassed to say, "Oh, I ran just a 5K," because a 5K for someone can be such an accomplishment.
Mhm.
5K is great. Like running for 40 minutes without stopping, that's amazing. Not a
Yes.
lot of people can do that. So never minimize your accomplishments.
Yeah. I say that all the time. Like those of us who are really immersed in the running space, um, you forget that you take one step outside of running community, running social circles. People don't do this. you know, like they see us and we're thinking, oh yeah, okay, fine, I ran a marathon, but like it wasn't that fast. Or okay, yeah, I ran a 5K, but it wasn't a 10K, or I ran a half marathon, but it
Mhm,
wasn't. You're always thinking, about the comparison, right? And how you want to be doing more and doing better. Most people are looking at us from outside the running community and thinking, wow, that person runs. Period. Full stop. That person
mhm.
runs. That's crazy. I feel like I could never do that. And everyone, I believe that everyone can, to some degree, some capacity, be a runner if they want to be, if they're able to. Um, you just need to, yeah, not set your sights so unattainably high that you're going to get discouraged of how long it might take you to reach your goals.
Exactly. And I continue to tell myself that I struggle and tell myself that
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
But you really have to give yourself the time and
Yes.
be proud.
Exactly. So I mentioned your social media a couple of times, but where can people find you and connect with you and follow along on your journey as you now are going to have another half marathon coming up in a couple of
Yes,
weeks? And
coming
then
up.
who
Well,
knows
I'm
beyond that? Maybe we'll see it in New York City
exactly.
next year.
You never know. But I'm mostly found on Instagram. I'm at the.curvy.runner, and that's where I'm most present.
Okay, wonderful. And any final thoughts that you want to leave us with? Any last advice that you want to share?
I just like to say, don't ever be afraid of what you look like to go out there to exercise. Don't wait till you're a certain look or a certain weight to either go to the gym or go outside, go for a walk, but, just do it. You don't have to look a certain way to be a runner.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for joining me today and sharing your story. I really, really appreciate you taking the time and all of our technical difficulties combined.
Well, thanks to you. Thanks so much for inviting me. I was glad to finally meet you face to face.
Yes, yes. After a few months of working together online, it's great to finally connect and get to know you a little bit more. All right, thank you so much, everyone listening. I hope that you found this episode insightful, helpful. If you're looking for someone for some help with planning and logistics for your next Run Disney event, then go ahead and follow Melanie over at the Curvy Runner, and I'm sure she'll be happy to give you all of her best advice and tips. And that's it for today. We will see you right back here next week. Bye for now. The information on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be used or relied upon for the diagnosis or treatment of any health condition. This information does not create a client-practitioner relationship and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice.